Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm 28 years old. I gave birth in the backseat of my car, in a parking lot, alone. The cold leather stuck to my skin as I screamed into the dark, with no one to hold my hand. But what hurt more than the labor was the moment my family blamed me for it. My mother's voice still echoes in my head, sharp and unforgiving. You did this to yourself. My father turned away, his silence heavier than any words. My sister just stared, her eyes full of judgment. I wasn't just alone that night. I've been alone ever since. Before I explain how everything spiraled to that night, please hit like and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. This wasn't easy to live through, and it's even harder to tell. I need to get this out, to feel like someone, somewhere, might understand the weight I've been carrying ever since that moment. I never saw it coming. At 28, I thought I knew where my life was headed, but those 2 pink lines on the test stripped that illusion away. My hands shook as I held it, my stomach twisting with fear and a flicker of hope. Maybe my family would help me through this. They had to, right? I gathered them in the living room that night, the air heavy and still. My heart thudded so loud I could barely hear my own voice. I'm pregnant, I said, the words spilling out in a shaky whisper. I braced myself, waiting for something, anything, to break the silence. My mother didn't even flinch. She stared at the wall, her hands clenched around the arms of her chair, knuckles white as bone. You've soiled this family's honor, she said, her voice sharp and frigid. I opened my mouth to explain, to beg her to see it wasn't planned, but she shot up. Don't speak, she hissed, and stormed out. The room felt colder without her, though she'd left no warmth behind. I turned to my sister, my clumsy little shadow who'd always tagged along growing up. Her face twisted, not with concern but disgust. She shook her head and followed Mom, her footsteps a quiet rejection. Dad was last. He didn't look at me, just let out a long, tired breath and shuffled away, shoulders sagging like I'd broken him. That was when the walls started closing in. Days bled into weeks, and Mom became a ghost in her own house. She'd glide past me, eyes cutting through me like I was nothing. Once, I cornered her in the hall, desperate. Mom, please, talk to me, I pleaded. She stopped, her gaze empty. You chose this shame. Live with it, she said, and brushed by me. My sister turned, avoiding me, into an art. She'd vanish when I entered a room, but one morning I caught her in the kitchen, pouring coffee. Hey, I tried, voice soft. She froze, then shoved past me. Why don't you just get lost, she muttered. You're so pathetic. Her words sliced deep, sharper than I'd ever imagined she could be. Dad's silence was its own beast. He'd always been quiet, but now it was suffocating. I'd try, asking about his day, the news, anything, but he'd grunt or nod, then slip away. One night, I paused by their bedroom door and heard him murmur to Mom, "What did we do to end up with a kid like her?" His voice was heavy, disappointed. I pressed a hand to my chest, feeling it cave in. Then came the worst. I got home one afternoon to find my room ransacked, my diary, my one safe place, sprawled on the floor, pages crushed and torn. Mom stood there clutching a note I'd scribbled, her face a mask of rage. "This is the garbage of a failure," she spat, flinging it at me. "You don't belong here." I couldn't move. Tears burned down my cheeks, but my voice was gone. I was alone, completely, in a house that wasn't mine anymore. The night my labor started, the world unraveled. Rain pounded down in sheets, relentless, turning the streets into dark, swirling rivers. Thunder cracked the sky open, shaking my bones as I staggered to my car, the only refuge I had left. My belly clenched, a brutal twisting pain that stole my breath. 9 months pregnant, abandoned and terrified, I slid behind the wheel, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold it steady. I drove through the flood, tires slipping, water surging around me. Each contraction hit like a hammer, fast and unforgiving, and I gripped the wheel tighter, tears blurring my eyes. I grabbed my phone, dialed Mom's number once, twice, 5 times. "Mom, please," I sobbed into the voicemail. "I'm in labor. I need you. Help me." Silence. No answer. I called my sister, the ringing endless, a hollow sound that mocked me. "Pick up," I begged, but the line died. In a panic, I dialed 911. "Please, I'm having a baby," I gasped. The operator's voice was flat, distant. "All ambulances are tied up. Get to the nearest hospital if you can." If I can? My vision swam, rain, pain, fear, and I choked on a scream as another contraction tore through me. I reached the hospital parking lot, the building a faint outline through the storm. I fumbled with the door, but then it happened. A gush, warm and sudden, my water breaking over the seat. Pain exploded, white hot, pinning me where I sat. I couldn't walk. I couldn't make it inside. The baby was coming now. I crawled to the back seat, screaming, my voice raw and ragged. "Somebody help me!" I cried, but the rain drowned it out, hammering the roof like a drum. Lightning flashed and I saw my face in the window, pale, frantic, alone. I pushed, my body splitting apart, pain so fierce I thought I'd die. No one was coming. No one cared. Then a sound. Footsteps splashing closer. A man's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold on." A doctor, soaked in scrubs, flung the door open. His eyes widened, but his hands moved fast. "I've got you," he said, and for the first time that night, I breathed. He coached me through the final push, and then a cry. My baby's piercing the storm like a miracle. The hospital room felt like a cage, too bright, too empty. My body throbbed from the birth, every muscle screaming, but it was nothing compared to the hollow ache in my chest. My daughter slept against me, her tiny hand gripping my finger, her warmth the only thing keeping me grounded. She was here, real, perfect. For a fleeting moment, I let myself imagine my family might see her that way too. Maybe her arrival would soften them, bridge the gap I'd been clawing at for years. I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of her little hand, so fragile yet fierce, and posted it online. "Welcome to the world, my little warrior," I typed. It was a quiet rebellion, a way to claim this joy they wouldn't share. Then the phone rang. Mom. My pulse quickened. Maybe she'd heard, maybe she'd care. "Mom," I croaked, voice raw. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" She barked, no trace of kindness. "Now you've got your mess. Deal with it." Her words sliced through me, sharp and cold. "Mom, I tried calling. Spare me," she snapped. "You chose this. Don't expect us to clean it up." The line went dead. I stared at the screen, tears blurring it, my breath caught in my throat. Then a text pinged. My sister. "Playing the pity card online. Pathetic. Don't wait for visitors. We're not coming." Each word was a jab, proof they'd all turned their backs. Not one of them had come to the hospital. Not one asked if I was okay, if she was okay. The silence roared louder than the storm I'd birthed her in. I hugged my daughter tighter, tears soaking her blanket. "It's just us," I whispered, voice cracking. "But I'll never abandon you like they did me." The room's hum swallowed my words, and in that stillness something broke. They wouldn't change. They'd chosen blame over love, rejection over us. But as I traced her tiny face, a new strength settled in me. I didn't need them. She was mine, and I was hers. That was enough. After being discharged from the hospital, I dragged myself back to my family's house, a place that no longer held any warmth. My parents and sister were there, living under the same roof, but to them, I was a ghost. They moved around me, their eyes sliding past as if I were a stain they refused to acknowledge. I'd shuffle through the halls, cradling my newborn daughter, dodging their presence like an intruder. My mother might be at the stove, my father sprawled on the couch, my sister brushing by without a word. Each encounter a silent dagger, carving deeper into my isolation. Money was a noose tightening around my neck. The hospital bills had gutted my savings, and I couldn't work, not yet. One gray afternoon, I sat on my bed, staring at the necklace my grandmother had given me years ago. Its delicate chain glinted faintly, a relic of her love, her voice echoing in my mind. For my brave girl. Brave? I was crumbling. But my daughter needed milk, diapers, a chance. So I trudged to the pawn shop, handed over that piece of my soul, and walked out with a few crumpled bills. It was survival, but it felt like betrayal. Nights were a descent into hell. After rocking my baby to sleep, I'd perch by the window, gazing down at the street below. The pavement shimmered under the streetlights, whispering promises of peace. I'd picture it. One step, a fall, and the torment would end. The thought wrapped around me like a shroud, heavy and seductive. One night, I broke. I stepped onto the balcony, the wind slicing through my thin nightgown, chilling my bones. I gripped the railing, leaning out, my breath ragged. The ground loomed far below, a black void calling my name. My heart pounded, my fingers trembled. Freedom was so close. Just let go. Then a wail cut through the darkness. My daughter's cry, sharp and desperate, yanked me back. She was alone, helpless, needing me. The sound shattered the haze, and I stumbled inside, scooping her into my arms. Her tiny body pressed against mine, warm and alive, tethering me to this world. "I'm here," I choked out, tears soaking her blanket. "Mommy's here." In the bathroom, I faced the mirror. My reflection was a wreck. Hollow eyes, tangled hair, a shell of who I'd been. But something flickered inside me. I grabbed a marker and scrawled across the glass. "You are not allowed to die. Not for you, but for your child. You haven't lost yet." The words stared back, fierce and unyielding. Each morning, I'd stand there, reciting them like a prayer, drawing strength from their jagged truth. Help was a mirage. One day, I swallowed my pride and approached my mother in the kitchen. She hacked at vegetables, her movements sharp. "Mom," I whispered, "I need money for formula." "Please." She didn't flinch. "You chose to have that kid," she said, her voice ice cold. "Feed it yourself. Don't touch this family's money." Her rejection stung, but it lit a fire in me. I wouldn't beg. I'd fight. For my daughter, I'd claw my way out of this abyss. After those dark, suffocating nights, I was clinging to a fragile thread of resolve. My daughter's cry had pulled me back from the edge, but I still felt lost, adrift in a sea of despair. Then, one restless evening, I stumbled upon an online group for single mothers, a quiet corner of the internet where women like me laid bare their struggles and victories. At first, I just read, soaking in their words like a lifeline. But one night, with trembling fingers, I typed out my story, every raw, jagged piece of it. The response was a wave of warmth, messages of kindness, tips from mothers who'd been where I was, and promises that I wasn't alone. It felt like a soft glow piercing the shadows around me. In one of the group's video chats, a name flickered on the screen that stopped my heart. Daniel. He was a friend from college, a steady presence who'd always had this quiet way of looking at me, like he saw something worth believing in. Back then, I'd been too caught up in my own world to notice. Now, here he was again. A few days later, my phone buzzed with his message. "Lauren, it's Daniel. I read your post. I'm so sorry you're going through this. If you need to talk, or if there's anything I can do, I'm here." His words carried no pity, just a sincerity that settled over me like a warm blanket. We started talking, first in tentative messages, then in long, late-night calls. Daniel didn't push or pry. He listened, his voice a gentle anchor in my storm. One night, as I vented about money and the endless weight of bills, he said, Have you thought about freelancing? You could work from home. I can help you start." I hesitated, but he was already sending me links, guides, websites, everything I'd need. Each evening, after my daughter fell asleep, he'd guide me through it all, setting up profiles, hunting for jobs, writing proposals that didn't sound desperate. His patience was a gift, his faith in me a light I hadn't seen in myself. It was exhausting. Some days, I wanted to quit. Motherhood left me drained, and this felt like climbing a mountain with no peak. But Daniel never wavered. He'd cheer when I finished a profile, laugh with me over my clumsy first attempts at proposals. Then, one chilly morning, an email arrived. "You've been hired." A tiny data entry job, nothing grand, but mine. When the $75 landed in my account, I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. I grabbed my daughter, spinning her in my arms. "Mommy did it, baby! We're going to be okay!" For the first time in so long, hope wasn't just a word. It was a feeling, fragile but real, growing inside me. That first $75 felt like a crack of light in the dark, but I knew it wasn't enough. I had to build something real, something lasting for me and my daughter. With Daniel's guidance, I plunged into learning, graphic design, writing, anything I could master from home. After my daughter fell asleep, I'd sit at my rickety desk, the laptop's glow my only companion. The night was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and my tired breaths. My eyes stung from video tutorials, my hands clumsy with new tools. Some nights I'd collapse, head on the keyboard, only to wake and push on. Balancing motherhood and this grind was brutal, but every skill I gained felt like a lifeline pulling me from the ashes. Daniel wasn't just a mentor, he was my rock. His texts came like clockwork. "You're doing great, Lauren. Keep going." When I faltered, his voice steadied me over late-night calls. Once, a picky client nearly broke me. Endless revisions, impossible demands. Daniel spent the whole evening with me, tweaking designs, drafting replies, until we cracked it. "You've got this," he said, and I clung to those words like a lifeline. Bit by bit, it paid off. Clients returned, praising my work. My income steadied. Bills got paid, groceries filled the fridge. Then one day I saw it. A small teddy bear in a shop window, soft and perfect. I'd promised my daughter 1 month ago, back when promises were all I had. Now I could deliver. Watching her hug it tight, her giggles echoing, my chest ached with joy. Tears blurred my vision as I realized this was rebirth, not just surviving, but giving her happiness. That moment changed me. The pain of my past, my family's rejection, still lingered, but it didn't own me anymore. I was a mother, a worker, a woman who'd fought through the wreckage and found her strength. Standing there, watching her play, I knew I was enough, and that felt like victory. I'd been grinding for months, clawing my way out of the mess they'd left me in. Part 7 was me finding my footing. Lauren, standing taller, breathing easier, with a steady $1,000 a month now lining my pockets. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. Blood, sweat, and a stubborn refusal to break had gotten me here. And then, like clockwork, they came sniffing around again. It started with Mom. My phone buzzed one afternoon, her name flashing on the screen like a warning sign I'd learned to heed. I picked up, keeping my tone flat, guarded. "Hey, Lauren," she said, her voice syrupy, like she hadn't spent years pretending I didn't exist. "I heard you're making money now? Is that true?" I could hear the wheels turning behind her words. Not pride, not curiosity, just calculation. I kept it short. "Yeah, I'm doing okay. No details, no invitations." She pressed a little, asking about my job, my plans, but I deflected. "Busy these days?" I said, and let the silence hang until she gave up. I wasn't playing her game anymore. Then my sister called. Her kid's birthday was coming up, she said, voice all bright and casual like we'd been chatting weekly. "I was thinking maybe you could get something nice for her. She'd love it." I almost laughed. This was the same sister who'd ghosted me when I was scraping by, who hadn't even texted when I was at my lowest. Now here she was, palms out, because word had spread that I wasn't drowning anymore. "I'll see what I can do," I told her, polite but cold. I sent a cheap toy, nothing fancy, nothing personal. A checkbox ticked, not a bridge rebuilt. She didn't call back to thank me. Daniel saw it coming before I did. My phone lit up with his text one night. "They're circling back because you're doing well. Don't forget, you survived without them." He was right. I'd built this life brick by brick, alone, while they'd watched from a distance, betting I'd collapse. Now that I hadn't, they wanted a piece of it. But I wasn't the same Lauren who'd begged for scraps of their attention. I'd learned my worth the hard way. Mom texted again a week later. "Maybe we could visit? Catch up?" I stared at the words, feeling nothing but a dull ache where guilt used to live. "Not a good time," I replied. No explanation, no softness. She didn't push, but I knew she'd try again. They always did when the well wasn't dry. My sister sent a photo of her kid with the toy, captioned, "Thanks. No warmth, just a hook for more." I didn't respond. I wasn't cruel, just done. I'd spent years starving for their approval, their presence, only to realize they'd never show up unless there was something in it for them. Now, with my $1,000 a month, my small apartment, my quiet victories, I was a prize they wanted to claim. But I wasn't theirs to have. I'd survived the dark days, nights crying into a pillow, days counting pennies, weeks wondering why I wasn't enough. I'd pulled myself out, not them. Daniel's words stayed with me. You survived without them. Damn right I had. So when Mom called again, hinting at family dinners, I cut her off. "I'm busy building my life," I said, voice steady, unyielding. "I'll let you know if that changes." It wouldn't. My sister tried guilting me next, something about family sticking together. I told her, family doesn't wait until you're useful to care. She hung up offended, but I didn't lose sleep over it. I wasn't angry anymore, just clear. They could circle all they wanted, but I'd drawn a line. This life, this peace, was mine. They'd had their chance to be part of it when I was broken, and they'd walked away. Now that I was whole, they didn't get to pretend it was love pulling them back. It was greed, plain and simple, and I wasn't feeding it. I'd keep my distance, stay polite, but trust? That was long gone. I'd earned this ground, and I wasn't giving an inch. Daniel had been my anchor for months, but it wasn't until that quiet Thursday night that I realized he was becoming something more. His text arrived as I was tucking my daughter into bed. "Let's celebrate surviving. Dinner tomorrow? My treat." I stared at the screen, a smile tugging at my lips. Surviving? That's what it felt like. Clawing through the ruins of my old life to piece together something new. I replied, "We'd love to." And for the first time in ages, a flicker of excitement stirred in me. The next evening, we met at a cozy diner, its soft lights and snug booths feeling like a warm embrace. Daniel was already there, waving us over with his familiar grin. As we settled in, he slid a small wrapped box across the table. "For the little warrior," he said, eyes twinkling. Inside was a tiny stuffed bear, soft and perfect for her small hands. She squealed, hugging it tight, and my heart melted. "You didn't have to," I murmured, but he brushed it off. "I wanted to. She's as tough as her mom." Dinner was simple. Burgers, fries, laughter at her messy attempts to eat. But the real warmth was in the air between us. Daniel leaned back, watching us with a gentleness I hadn't noticed before. "I don't know much about being a dad," he said, his voice low and earnest. "But I've seen how you are with her. You're better than anyone I've ever met." His words settled over me like a soft blanket, soothing aches I'd forgotten were there. I blinked back tears, managing a quiet, "Thank you." We lingered over the meal, talking about everything and nothing. His latest project, my freelancing wins, how her giggles could light up a room. There was no rush, no hidden motives, just two people who'd weathered storms finding ease in each other. Walking home, Daniel carried the stroller up the steps without a word, his steady presence grounding me. We paused on the porch, the night air cool around us. "Thanks for tonight," I whispered. He nodded, his gaze lingering. "Anytime, Lauren. I'm here." It wasn't a grand gesture, but it didn't need to be. In that still moment, I knew we were moving forward together, not as a fling or a savior, but as two people who trusted each other enough to keep going side by side. 1 year after my daughter's birth, I've carved out a life I never dreamed possible. I'm Lauren, a full-time freelancer now, pulling in around $3,000 a month. Daniel's love still anchors me, but this is my triumph. I've rented a small sunlit apartment with a balcony where I grow basil and lavender, their scents mingling with the morning air. My daughter thrives, enrolled in gentle exercise classes, her laughter a melody I never tire of. I've studied scientific parenting methods, determined to raise her with strength and care. I shared my story online, and it exploded, viral, raw, real. A women's magazine called, their headline blazing, "The Mother Who Gave Birth in a Parking Lot and Lived Like a Warrior." I am that warrior. A year ago, I was trembling, alone in that parking lot, my family's rejection a fresh wound. Now I stand radiant, unshaken. Freelancing became my lifeline. With Daniel's early encouragement, I sharpened my graphic design and writing skills. Today, I work from home, my laptop humming as I meet deadlines. That $3,000 monthly income isn't just cash, it's proof I can provide, proof I'm enough. I set my own rhythm, weaving motherhood into my days like golden thread. Our apartment is my pride. Light spills through the windows, warming the wooden floors. The balcony is my sanctuary. I tend my plants, sip coffee, watch the sunrise paint the sky. It's small, but it's ours, a space I've built from the ground up. My daughter's growth is my joy. At her exercise classes, she stretches with tiny, determined hands, giggling as she moves. I've pored over parenting books, attended workshops, learned how to nurture her mind and body. She'll know love, not the cold silence I once endured. Then came the post. One sleepless night, I poured my soul onto the screen, every struggle, every victory. I hit share, and the world responded. Thousands retweeted, commented, cheered. The magazine's call was surreal. They saw me, a mother who birthed her child in chaos and rose like a phoenix. I'm proud, fiercely so. The past, with its despair and abandonment, forged me, but it doesn't own me. Daniel's support was my rock, yet this life, this strength, is mine. As my daughter plays, her voice filling our home, I know I've become the mother I always wanted to be. A year has passed since that night in the parking lot, a night that changed everything. Back then, I was a woman grasping for stability, clinging to the hope that I could build a life for my daughter and me. Now, I stand here, not just as a mother, but as someone who has pieced together a world from the shards of rejection and doubt. I used to think family was about blood, that the people who shared my roots were the ones who'd lift me up when I fell. But life has a way of rewriting the stories we tell ourselves. In my loneliest moments, when the silence was loudest, I learned that family isn't tied to DNA. It's about the souls who choose to walk beside you, who hold space for you to become who you're meant to be. My little apartment, with its sunlit balcony where my daughter's giggles dance in the air, isn't just a roof over our heads. It's a sanctuary, a place where I've learned to trust my own strength, to nurture my dreams as fiercely as I nurture her. Here, I'm not the Lauren who begged for acceptance. I'm the Lauren who stands tall, unapologetically herself. That night I gave birth wasn't just about bringing my daughter into this world. It was the night I birthed the strongest version of myself, a woman who knows love isn't owed, but earned through resilience and grace. I once thought I needed a family to feel complete, to fill the hollow spaces left by those who turned away, but now I see it differently. I only needed a home, a place where I could grow, where my heart could breathe. And in building that, I've found my truest family, my daughter's bright eyes, Daniel's steady hand, and the quiet courage that blooms within me every day. Family isn't blood. It's where you're allowed to grow. Have you ever felt like you had nowhere to turn? Share your story below if you've survived loneliness and come out stronger. And if you know a single mother who's stumbling, send her this story, because everyone deserves a chance to rise again.